Hey all, we have another teacher request video for how to make a arcade runner. Specifically, this is for the module 2. So what we'll do is we will do a breakdown of how to set up a runner. Just like the earlier videos, this will be a quick one, and your more complete game is, of course, in the files from your teacher handbook. But for now, we're going to go as if we're starting from completely from scratch. All right. Let's go ahead and share our screen and begin. Okay, so we start right here with the on start. Now, we could add a whole bunch of stuff into here, but because of how Module 2 works, I do want to actually go ahead and show you how we built some of these things in. So down to advance, we're going to get functions, and then we are going to make a function. Just like in our second two, I'm going to call this start run. Cool. And that will be done. All right. This is where most of our code is going to exist. And then after that, we're going to also go back into functions and we're going to call start run. So what we are telling this to do in block coding is that upon the game start, it's going to run this function immediately. All right, from here we have two splash things. That usually just tells our players what they're going to be doing. So if we go into the game tab here, we're just going to make sure it says something real quick. Let's do a splash for what happens when they press A and what happens when they press B. All right, and let's just type it. Press A, fire, fireball. And then let's add another one in. And let's do for the press B, shield. Okay. Now we're going to want some kind of background image for our player to actually do something in. So let's go ahead and take care of that right now. So go into scene and we'll do set background image. Now let's just do something pretty generic here. Let's just look in the gallery. No need to get too fancy. All right, so all these are going to have the player going from side to side, whereas if you remember our Galaga type shooter or the Module 2, it has more than that. For now, I say even if it looks kind of weird, we're just going to keep that where it is. We can get into the editing of it later. So let's see. Lily pads we'll just have to do. Okay. We are going to want to create the illusion that our background is moving, even though it's just a solid picture. Obviously, the camera is going to stay a little more fixed than we did with the platformer level. So we are going to make sure we add the scroller. Now you'll notice it's not here. That's fine. Let's go ahead and hit extensions. Now, this can always jump around sometimes, so never despair if by the time you're watching this video, it doesn't look exactly like the one I have up here. Let's see. There we go. Arcade background scroll. All right, and now we have the tab right here for scroller. All right, so we're going to look for scroll background width. Here we are. So this will move our settings. Now we want the scroll to be up and down. So we don't want it going side to side. So we're going to set that to 0. And I think for the VY, we can set it something as simple as 10. All right, while we're waiting, let's see. Yep, and if you look at the game screen right now, you'll see the lily pad slowly walking down. All right, we're off to a good start. All right, let's make sure we add some gameplay elements. So in info, we will do the set score to 0. No need to change that. And we'll start a countdown. Also in info, we'll just do a quick 60-second game. And then we can just go ahead and set the life. We'll just keep that for now. But just know that you can go in and change these. In fact, on second thought, let's just go ahead and change the life just to show how easy it is. Okay, great. So we already have a timer setting and a scroller. Now we just need to add a player. Okay, so we're going to set my sprite to kind of player. And let's go ahead and click in this square. All right, we're going to just do a gallery view on this one again. We got this hero kind of going in. Let's just click them. Maybe let's go ahead and make it blue. Oops. If you're curious, I just controlled Z as I'm making this. And really, I'm just showing how fast we can kind of customize a hero to make them our own real fast. Okay, great. Now, we're going to make sure our sprite moves with buttons and the sprite stays in screen. So, under controller, move my sprite with buttons. And then under the sprites column, let's see. I'm not just going slow for viewer's sake. Sometimes it really is troubling to remember where everything is, and this software does update a lot. But yeah, we had set my sprite, stay in screen on. All right, and the last thing I think we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want to go ahead and give an animation. So under animation, and now we're gonna want to move it. We're gonna want it to go into a loop, but notice we don't have anything right now. So I clicked in, and I'm gonna hit gallery again. That looks pretty good. Hero moving. Okay. Now you'll remember that we made it blue. So the hero is also going to have to be blue in every single frame as you are trying to edit this for animation. We'll do a separate one on how to make your own. It is pretty complex, and the way I usually do recommend is to just either draw over what somebody else has already done, like in the gallery, if you are trying to do this quickly. But as you can see, this is what it takes. If you're ever trying to add your own, what you do is if you select the animation frames, you just hit constant pluses and have to change your character. This can be a little more fun and fast, and especially if you are not too attached to making your super unique character, because block drawing, of course, can be kind of cumbersome. Okay, now see, we have edited all in these. We don't have to add another additional frame on that. The interval in milliseconds is every half second you're going to see them make a running motion. So let's see what our character looks like right now as we have moved with buttons. All right. We see that they're stayed in screen. They have 5 health, and they're running. But right now, we don't have anything happening with the A and B button. We also don't have anything that, says whether or not they're going to win or lose. So real quick, we're going to do an on A button being pressed and an on B button being pressed. What we do is find the on A button being pressed option and then switch it to B. Cool. So you can see from the sample games, there's a ton of different options. We're going to go to the bare bones functionality for this one. That way, we are not overcomplicating this. So for this, we're going to want a projectile on the A button being pressed. So we go back into sprites, and then as we scroll down, we're going to want this to set projectile and image from that's going to emanate from our sprite. We're going to want it to just go straight. So let's set that to 0 for right now. And I believe that has to be -50. I might be proven wrong in a second. But as we click in, let's just go back into gallery. We called it a fireball earlier. That looks like a pretty big fireball. We're not going to have this one animated, so let's just make sure it's... All right, let's try and see that as it is loading. Yep, great. And for B, we did kind of want to do a shield. Now, that can get a little complicated, and there usually has to be a release option. So what we're going to do is we are going to create another projectile, believe it or not. We're going to set projectile 2 as a kind. Now we are actually going to incorporate some animation, but what we don't want to do is we don't want this leaving our hero. So on 0 and on 0, we have here. Okay, so we're going to have projectile 2 happen. Now let's look in the gallery for that. So we're going to want this one to be kind of small. So we're going to do this option, and we're just going to call it the shield. Great. Now, with that, we're going to want to show some animation. So we're going to go back in and animate, and we're going to keep this here. Click in the red, projectile 2, and we're going to want to set that a lot smaller because we're going to want to have that happen in a second. So 100 milliseconds should be enough time. Into frames, we're going to go back into the gallery. Now we have a little bit more of an image. So let's see. That's kind of what we picked. So we're going to kind of create a star shield. We're going to let the frames be what they are, but you can see from this image how complex it can get. Okay. Now you'll notice as you do, it doesn't actually leave here, and we're going to want that to change. So we go back into controller real quick, and then select another on A button press block. I'm just putting it here for now for the purpose on it. B, and then change it to released. And what we want to do is we just want to get rid of it. So in sprites, we're going to look for destroy sprite. Yep. And make sure you change it from my sprite to projectile 2. Okay, so now let's look at the screen real quick on our left of the screen. If I hold it, I have it, but it disappears the second I'm done. All right, now our hero is effectively here, but we probably do need to change to make this an effective shield to change it. So let's go ahead into sprites and we're going to change it by scale. Let's make sure we see it. Yep, there we go. We're going to change my sprite scale by anchor. Because we're going to want this to be a little bigger, so we're going to change projectile 2. Let's make it scale of 2, anchor middle. We got the fireball, and look, we've got a much bigger kind of starry shield. And it's a little vague with the colors, but you can see that as our player comes to it. The last thing we have to do is just hit the overlaps and enemy. We'll take care of that in the next video. All right, everybody, thanks for hanging in there. Once you get this far, just make sure it's a good saving point, and we'll cover how overlaps happen in this next one. Happy gaming, everyone.